Emily was the kind of woman people noticed the moment she walked into a room, not just because of her beauty, but because of the aura of money and power she carried with her. She was the only daughter of Charles Bennett, a real estate mogul who owned half the skyscrapers downtown. Emily had grown up with luxury stitched into every corner of her life. Diamonds on her wrist before she was old enough to understand their worth, silk dresses in her closet when other children were running around in hand-me-downs. But with privilege came pride, and with pride came a blindness Emily never truly noticed in herself. When she got engaged to Richard, an equally wealthy investment banker, the city buzzed with excitement. Their wedding was not just a ceremony, it was an event, an exhibition of wealth. A gathering where socialites, politicians, and celebrities would come together to celebrate not just love, but status. Everything had to be perfect. The flowers imported from Holland, the cake crafted by a Parisian chef, the dress designed exclusively by an Italian fashion house that had dressed royalty. Emily wasn't just planning a wedding, she was planning a spectacle. Weeks before the wedding, her planner introduced her to a photographer. His name was Marcus. He was young, maybe in his early 30s, tall, with kind eyes and a quiet demeanor. His portfolio was breathtaking. Every image carried not just a face, but a soul, a story, an emotion that lived beyond the frame. But Emily didn't see that. The moment Marcus entered the room, Emily's eyes scanned him from head to toe. His dark skin, his simple clothing, the camera bag slung over his shoulder, it didn't fit the image she had in her mind. "This is Marcus," the planner introduced. "He's one of the most talented photographers I've ever worked with. His work has even been featured in exhibitions." Marcus extended his hand politely. "It's a pleasure, Miss Bennett. I'd be honored to capture your big day." Emily hesitated. She looked at his hand but didn't take it immediately. Finally, with the slightest forced smile, she shook it. "Yes. Well, I'll take a look at your portfolio." Later that evening, she flipped through the photographs. They were stunning. Pictures of brides crying as their fathers walked them down the aisle. Couples sharing small, intimate smiles. Children laughing on the dance floor. Every image felt alive. But still, Emily couldn't let go of her prejudice. She whispered to her planner, "I don't think he fits the image of my wedding. Find someone else. Someone more appropriate." Marcus overheard. He didn't argue. He didn't protest. He had heard worse in his career. With a calm nod, he stepped back. "Of course. I understand." The planner looked embarrassed, but Emily was satisfied. She wanted perfection, and in her mind, Marcus didn't belong in that picture. But what Emily didn't know was that this quiet man, the one she had just rejected, would end up giving her the most priceless gift she would ever receive. The wedding day arrived like a storm of silk and champagne. The venue was a cathedral dressed in gold, its aisles carpeted in roses. Guests in shimmering gowns and tailored suits filled the pews. Photographers buzzed around, clicking away with expensive cameras, their flashes bouncing off the marble walls. Emily stood before a mirror in her bridal suite. Her gown sparkled under the chandelier, and her makeup was flawless. She was the picture of perfection, and yet, something inside her felt hollow. She brushed it aside. Today wasn't about feelings. Today was about appearances. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the grand hall, Marcus was there. Not officially. He hadn't been hired, but his friend, a musician performing at the wedding, had invited him along. And while the approved photographers staged artificial shots of champagne glasses and posed smiles, Marcus quietly raised his camera. He captured the moments no one else noticed. The way Emily's father's hands trembled as he fixed her veil. The tear that escaped her mother's eye as she whispered, "She looks just like I did on my wedding day." The groom, Richard, clutching a small handkerchief as he watched Emily walk down the aisle, his lips trembling as if he couldn't believe she was real. Marcus didn't direct, didn't interrupt. He simply observed. His camera became invisible, his lens a window to the raw emotions unfolding around him. The night ended in music and dancing, glittering chandeliers and applause. Emily posed for endless photographs, every angle carefully curated, every smile rehearsed. By the time she collapsed into her honeymoon suite bed, her feet ached and her face hurt from smiling. She thought it was perfect. She thought it was flawless. 3 days later, a small package arrived at her door. No sender's name. just her address scrawled on the envelope. Inside was a USB drive and a note. Sometimes the moments you don't plan are the ones worth remembering. Emily frowned but plugged it into her laptop, and as the first photograph appeared on the screen, her heart stopped. It was her father, his eyes shimmering as he looked at her in her gown, his pride etched into every wrinkle of his face. The next was her mother, biting her lip to hold back tears. Then Richard, staring at her like she was the only person in the universe. One by one, the photos told the story of her wedding, not the stage spectacle, not the glittering show she had tried to create, but the human story. The story of love, devotion, vulnerability, and joy. Emily pressed her hand to her mouth as tears spilled freely. For hours, she scrolled through the images, sobbing. Each click was a stab of beauty and regret. She realized the truth. The man she had rejected, the man she had dismissed as inappropriate, had seen her more clearly than anyone else. Her expensive photographers had captured a wedding. Marcus had captured a marriage. That night, Emily cried until her pillow was soaked. Not out of sadness, but out of shame. Shame for her arrogance. Shame for her blindness. Shame for judging a man by his skin rather than his soul. Years later, when she looked back on her wedding day, she barely remembered the staged photos in glossy albums. But she never forgot Marcus's pictures. She had them printed, framed, and hung in her home, not as decorations, but as reminders. Reminders that true beauty can't be bought. Reminders that dignity and talent have no color. Reminders that the most precious gifts often come from the people we least expect. And every time Emily looked at those photos, she whispered the same words under her breath. "Forgive me, Marcus. Thank you for seeing me. When I refused to see you,